Thank you. See, the knowledge of the science behind storytelling will help you to build stories which will be aligned with the way the cognition of the audience works, and you will be able to drive your message. The second part of the storytelling series is building a story. With the knowledge of the science behind the storytelling, you can start building stories for different occasions and different needs. A story to share with your friends, to tell them what you value, how you will be useful to them and to the society, how you expect them to behave with you, and the terms of the relationship with you. If you were to tell it bluntly to them, they might feel bad, but when you tell it through the medium of a story, they will not feel bad and they will not be able to confront you. When told through stories, the message will be powerful and you will not be mistaken. You can build a story for social occasions to elevate the mood of the gathering to the purpose that you have all gathered for, to heighten the excitement and prepare the ground for better socializing and collaborating towards an objective. What is more, stories are very powerful in the office and in the professional environment. To drive your business, to satisfy your customer, to explain your objectives and values to your customer, to create your personal brand to your employers, employees, subordinates, peers. Stories are very important in establishing you within your ecosystem. In short, to establish your personal brand, you need to be able to tell a story very effectively. Telling a story effectively is a tricky thing. When you tell a story, you are in fact addressing the subconscious by bypassing the conscious. We all know that the conscious is a gatekeeper who stops everything. He's an argumentative entity. He keeps objecting to everything that comes in front of him. And if you have to tell a story effectively, you have to totally bypass it and go directly to the source of the authority, to the source of the power, the person who drives your life, your subconscious, the reptilian brain. And that is very tricky. Tricky things are better understood when taught trickily through implicit learning. So friends, let's do one thing. Let's do an exercise to understand storytelling. Are you all ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now do exactly as I do. Can you all unmute your video, please? Excellent. What a participative group I have got. Now, just imagine you are giving blood intravenously. What will you do? What will the nurse tell you to do? She will tell you to hold your hand like a fist very tight, right? Hold it very tight. Stiffen it so that the vein will come out. Hold it like that. You know, just imagine the nurse is taking the blood and then you hold it like this for a few minutes, then relax it. How did you feel?
Some sort of wheeze.
You have stretched your hand, clenched your fist tightly, you made your hand rigid, you held it like that for a few seconds, and then released it. What has this exercise got to do with storytelling? Let's consult and collaborate between each other. And through a 30-minute breakout room, understand what this exercise has got to do with storytelling. Are we ready? We have got 38 people. I will divide you into 5 rooms. You have done your exercise. You have held the fist tight. You have kept your hand rigid. Held it like that for a few seconds. Let it go. Now you'll have to understand what is storytelling. 5 rooms, 30 minutes. I have created the rooms. Please go into the room, discuss, understand how this corresponds to storytelling. Mr. Patil, can you join? Tasneem, Nitika, Mr. Atul, Rehan, Mr. Narendra Naik. Please join. Nitika, are you there?
I have joined, but it's not going to room.
Why it is not going to the room? Narendra Naik, which room is it?
Room number 5.
Room number 5, is it?
Yeah,
Why? What
I
happened?
joined actually.
You have joined, yeah, you have joined room number 5, huh?
Yeah.
Just a minute. Can you go to some other room then?
Anywhere it's okay.
Okay, go to room number 4. Are you going? Nitika? Pooja, you are not going to the room? Nitika? Chidambaram said you can move to room number 5. Good evening, Nagi sir.
Sir, good evening, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, I'm fine. Sir.
How are things in Hyderabad now? You have come back to Hyderabad, isn't it?
Come back to Hyderabad. Yeah.
Okay.
వచ్చి ఇవిడండి నీ ఎవడండి అటంతో నిద్రపోవచ్చు
So welcome back. Who ever thought that a Sunday evening, while the entire country is under lockdown, a group of highly educated people will try to find meaning in a closed fist of what storytelling is all about? Height of it, isn't it, Anil Saab?
Yeah.
So how
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
experience? How was the experience? You know, how easy it is to take people on a wild goose chase, isn't it?
Yes, we are all your fans. Even 2 o'clock night, we are there.
To analyze what a closed
Right.
fist means.
Yes,
Well
yes.
said, Anilji. So how was the exercise?
It was a
As-
lot of Josh inside, and we are blessed with all Mama, Nikita, and all Free
Talent.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, Vijay sir.
Okay, let us start with,
Participate.
let us start with room number 5.
Fantastic.
Yes, so room number 5, what was your experience? What did you come up with? How does holding a fist, tightening it, holding it for a few minutes or few seconds, and then releasing it, how does it explain storytelling?
Okay.
In cognitive science, we have read about reductionism, right? This is a classic example of reductionism. Let us see. Room number 5.
Which was ours?
Balchandar, we are room number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it.
Okay.
Release your fist, man, first.
So able to see Sapraji,
Yes.
able to see our screen?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes,
yes,
I'm
sir.
able to see it.
We thought that it was a simple exercise, but we keep discussing a lot, but we could get some good points. So the comparison or the connectivity between the exercise, whatever you have given, and the storytelling. First one is the build the pressure, maintain for a while, and then release it. It allows you for a gush of blood to flow into it and give some tingling and kindling sensation in our brain. And at the same time, raising of the heart also happens. All this put together, you are creating an anxiety to listen to a story and also looking for the next step, what we are supposed to go. This is part one, sir. The other one is you have been always talking about wiping away and giving the fresh thought to the participants. So it's like a virtual punch on the face of the listener by giving a short shock treatment. Before he recovers from that, we have to start our storytelling activity or the program. So unfolding of the hand and unfolding of the story are synonymous in our case. And sometimes a momentary pause where you have asked us to hold for certain seconds, no, that gives a lot of anxiety to go further for what next, the previous point. So what we have understood from this last 2 points is a three-step process which facilitated the blood flow, which is the essence. Similarly, through storytelling, the message should flow out effectively to get the moral of the story. And of course, whether it is a
No,
physical activity or a virtual activity, the transitioning is very, very important. And I think, Sapraj, you are about to tell this point. Yes, please.
yeah. So I was telling there that, see, that transitioning thing, actually give it away. I was telling you that let us rephrase this whole thing so that there is proper transitioning and the message will flow out effectively. That's why I came to that last point. So erase it right now.
Okay.
What I was saying that, I mean, you want to, like, blood is the essence from our body, okay, which we want to deliver. And for doing that, we have to, the nurse instructs us to actually do that whole movement. Okay. So how it is related to storytelling is that the story is the most compact way of actually building that subject matter, okay, in such a way that the essence or the moral of the story will come out in the minimum words and very effectively. So that is what happens when we do that moment of actually holding the feast and releasing
the feast
it.
and other things.
Yeah, that's what the one analogy that we were giving. And I mean, with respect to the stories form itself, I mean, slowly you build towards the climax and then you release that. That's what happens typically in a story. So that is the parallel to the form of the story I was telling. Yeah, that is what we were telling initially.
Yeah.
Okay, but the essence, I mean, the purpose of this whole activity is for blood, in the context of blood donation, is that likewise the blood flow actually begins. So similarly here, the moral of the story should be easily extracted once you do the storytelling.
Excellent, superb, superb. You see what collaborative thinking can do. This is what Garrison, Anderson, and Archer were talking in the community of inquiry when they were talking about a social presence. When you bring a group of people together, they really, they really escalate the learning level. Thank you. Thank you, room number 5. Let's go to room number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very well put. Very, very vital points. Yes, room number 4. Can we have your presentation, please?
Good evening, sir. Room number 4. We were quite a few of us, veterans, giving in their opinion. This is the story of the clenched fist. That's how we are titling our presentation. Now, the question is why? Why? The question why has to be addressed through this storytelling. And apart from that, there should be a connectivity, in the sense that, the goal of the story should be unfolded in such a way that the listener at the beginning itself could visualize it. That's how the impact has to happen. Then a hook is created. The moment the nurse says, stretch your hand, because what next? That question rises. And then, there is a kind of mental alignment also. Okay, whatever has to happen will happen. The needle may pinch me hard, or the needle pinch may not be felt. All this kind of anxiety is understood. Then instructions, one after the other. It's like preparing the listener for the story, right from opening to the transitioning to the closing and whatever the body part. This helps the listener to visualize, which is very, very important. And when there is rigidity of the palm, this rigidity of the palm relates to the strength of the script and the suspense it holds within that fist. Now, when we are asked to tighten, when the listener is asked to tighten, that kind of a state of mind is also being prepared. Already we have mentioned there's a mental alignment, but that state of mind is being tuned now. Yes, I'm prepared to, donate whatever the requirement. Now, coming to all this aside, it's a physiological outburst as well, where the anxiety is mounting. The person has 101 thoughts and so many things racing through the mind, but still the listener is fine-tuned to listen to the story of the nurse, to stretch the palm, fold the fist, let the veins out, and let the blood be drawn. This is like baptizing the mind of the listener. And when this entire process of storytelling is happening, this culminates the listener to understand the moral message, why at all the blood donation. Slowly that sets in, and the listener fine-tunes himself that, yes, it's a virtuous act on my part. Initially, the listener is passive, and sequentially, he or she is trying to comprehend the instruction, and then the action follows. And all this, the art of storytelling by the nurse to the listener, it elicits emotional responses from the listener. And that's the story of the clenched fist from room number 4. Thank you.
Superb. I think, you people should remind me that next time I have to create a program, I should give you all an exercise and then pick your brains. I think my program will be much more better and with lot more of elements in it. Superb. 2 rooms and literally we have completed everything there is to storytelling. Now I wonder what room number 3 is going to add. Let's see. Room number 3.
Yes, sir. I'll be representing room number 3.
Yes, Umama.
Yeah. Give me a moment while I share my screen. All right. So I will be dividing the entire.
Can you increase the size of the text?
Yeah,
Because it's so small.
Is it okay?
No, a bit more. You're talking to a very old man.
All right. All right. Give me a minute. Is it better?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I can live with it.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I hope.
Yeah. This is okay. This is okay.
Perfect. All right. So let's divide this entire activity into 3 different parts. One is clenching of fist. Second is holding for some time, and third is releasing it. So let's look at it from a child's perspective. If we are in front of a kid and we are clenching our fist and holding something in our hand, so the assumption of the kid will be what? He will be curious to know what is there inside. May it be a chocolate, may it be a toy, may it be a gift, I don't know what, right? So that curiosity, that excitement is there in that kid, and we can replicate the kid to other audience, of course, in this case. Next up is gathering the facts and data or insights. So whatever we have, we clench it in our fist initially to let the audience cook up their own story in between. And that is probably the holding it for some time, wherein we make the audience anxious about what is actually going on, right? And then we try to converge towards a conversion towards a point. So clenching also means converging to a particular point and then allowing it to diverge into multiple points while we are releasing it, right? So we are dropping the pearls of wisdom one by one to the audience, diverging to multiple points, and audience have the right to interpret it and take away the message that they wish to take. So that is how we see it.
Wow. Superb, simply mind-blowing.
Arun sir?
Yes.
If you permit, can I add one more point to it?
Please
I'm part of this team.
Please do.
See, you talked about medicine, you talked about before putting an injection, clenching the fist is one thing. When you clench the fist, it's quickly the blood flows to the heart. Storytelling is also like that. When you work it out, it should directly go to the heart quickly so that it is able to make an emotional connection. That is one more point I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask you people one thing. Have you people ever thought of storytelling in this depth?
Definitely
never. Never.
Okay, let's go to room number 2. Let's see what surprises room number 2 is going to pull out. Normally the magician who pulls a rabbit out of a hat. Here we are pulling out storytelling out of a hat. Oh, sorry, out of a fist. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Muralidharan Margabandhu, Coach Murli here. I've been assigned the task of representing our team. Okay, superb. Now, I'm not going to present our case or our observations in the format of a Word document.
Okay.
See, storytelling is all about keeping the audience engaged, possibly keeping their eyes contact, physical, and engaging them to visualize rather than reading. So that's the kind of thing which I'm going to try now. That's what, in fact, our team seriously thought about. See, when we were talking about the fist being held tight for a few seconds and then releasing. It's the question of visualizing in our mind that you are probably sitting in a chair, you are probably sitting in a couch or in a bed. The nurse is walking towards you close. See the kind of visualization that it just, expands. That's what, really it's a story. I mean, it's just not just clenching the fist. The hardware is forgotten there. It is the software which takes over. The software, which is our mind, which is our brain, it just blows out and it starts visualizing the nurse in her uniform walking towards us. There is an anxiety, there is an adventure, there is an expectation, which is all built over this. Okay. And then you have an anticipation. Okay, now that she is going to kind of, put the syringe into your vein is being tapped. You are able to visualize that. A story unveils, a movie unveils before your eyes, in your mind. And then she, slowly plunges the syringe into your vein and draws the blood. You have an anxiety whether the nurse is experienced good enough that she is not able to kind of, give me pain. Is it going to be painful or painless? After all, she is going to draw blood from my vein. So that kind of, it just creates, the visualization, the excitement, the adventure, and the connectivity between the physical activity with the possibly something which is not happening. It's just an experience which actually is not there. And we start looking at that. Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, what does it do? This clenched fist exercise, after all, it just makes us look into a dimension which was beyond, makes the human mind race into a lot of dimensions. And each one, we were 6, 7 of us in the room. And each one had a totally different dimension, which means the storyteller has to remember something very interestingly. There are going to be, if there are going to be only 2 people, that is one storyteller and one listener, there are minimum 3 stories which are running there. 1, the story conceived by the teller and the story presented the way he wants to, and the story which is perceived by the listener. It's a totally different dimension that we see here. Okay. And, storytelling actually becomes better when we are able to create the kind of curiosity, a hook, an expectation of an adventure. So that is what we saw. And one more thing which we noticed is that, the abstract, see, this is all abstract, right? This storytelling is absolute and abstract. So we also noticed one more thing, like, okay, when we are going to have a fact which is being presented along with a story, the facts are absorbed. See, after all, the human mind, the retention levels are going down now. So the great way of increasing the retention of a mind today is to combine the fact along with a story, which they are able to, kind of the hardware software combo kind of, which they are able to do something like that. So it's the images which triggers the activity of the brain. And, there is always a message which is given in a story. The story is not just about, we just trying to give something without a purpose. The story always has a clear purpose, and it becomes, it actually has to trigger some kind of emotion. The emotion which the storyteller has got a purpose or an objective towards, which he is actually driving towards a particular point in terms of that particular point being remembered. So that is the whole purpose of the storytelling. And I think I have covered almost everything. Room number 2, my friends, have I missed anything?
Thank you. Fantastic. Lots of new angles, new dimensions. 4 teams have come up with 4 totally different dimensions. Life is a kaleidoscope of thoughts and ideas. Let's go to room number 1. Yes. Room number 1, please. Akash.
So, if we were to put all of our conclusions into one simple statement, then it is anything can become a story. Once it is told as a story, it is not anything anymore. It is the point of the story. सब कुछ में राज छुपा है हुजूर, कहानी क्या है? That is like so amazing for us. One way to make a story out of the fist hand is to give the visualization of climbing the mountain and descending the mountain. You clench and there is a build up. You're going up, and then when the peak is there, the turning point comes, the aha moment is revealed, and then there is unfolding, and then the relaxation and the conclusion is happening. Another way is to see that you cannot, it is not just open fingers, it is not just closed fist. It is both. So there is some transition happening, and to transit, you also need to look at what is the connection, what is the interconnectedness. Okay, so that you can have all the divergent opinions in the room come together into a common inquiry. Raaz kya hai is mukti ka? And of course, children, babies, when they are firing their head neurons, newly developed, they are always like trying to process reality kinesthetically also with their fingers by clenching and unclenching. So by having the clenching and unclenching primitive motion as a point of inquiry, even the inner child is engaged. And from the point of view of the market, is the customer engagement happening or not? Can we have some kind of hypnotic rhythm induced by some simple things? Nothing is more simpler than opening and closing the fist. And there are so many ways to make the same action have so many different meanings. So implicit communication, bring attention to storyteller, release message, and that is the relaxing of the fist, so that the idea that is coming up later, even if it would have otherwise sounded odd or awkward, that resistance is reduced. And story lightens the mood so that there is more acceptance in the room. So then you can even compare it with control and empowerment. So are we just trying to squeeze or control, or are we giving encouragement and empowerment to the room? So that's it. Thank you.
Super, my goodness. Now, can you folks tell me what exactly you have seen happening here in the last 45 minutes?
Lots of implicit learning.
What has happened is you have given a solid kick in the butt of your subconscious, told it to go in search of all your understanding through the temporal, occipital, and parietal lobe of your brain, and collect all the information. You have dumped it and tried to make sense out of it. And what amount of understanding has come out about storytelling? Imagine. Each room came up with an entirely different perspectives, and all of them are valid in some way or the other. That means storytelling is way beyond the simplistic way we tend to look at it. It is way, way beyond that. It is life. You want to drive life? You have to understand storytelling. Today, we start as usual with understanding storytelling through a reductionist view. What is a reductionist view? We will try to define it in the most simple manner first, and then go into a holistic vision. We saw that we are going to see storytelling through three prisms. The science of storytelling, science behind storytelling, how to build a story, and how to effectively deliver a story. If you combine everything that you people have talked, believe me, the course is readily there, available in front of you. Now, all that we are going to do together is arrange it in a manner which becomes more assimilable to the conscious mind. The subconscious has thrown out huge amount of information which is there in it. Now the conscious needs to arrange it in such a way that it will be able to make absolute sense of it. So it starts you create a state of tension, a state of puzzlement, and a state of recoil. From there, you move on to a state of release, a state of insight, and a state of resolution, which comes before the insight. That means you are now engaging the interest and the attention of the person to whom you are narrating the story. And you are ensuring that he remembers it through an example which is intrinsically appealing to him. Friends, in a very short form, if we have to understand the cognition of storytelling, this is what it is in a reductionist fashion. We know that the cognitive science identifies thought in two angles, reductionism and holism. The trees and the woods, this is the trees. You create a state of tension, a puzzlement and recoil in the mind of the audience, then create a release by resolving the problem and creating an insight which will engage the audience's interest and attention so that he remembers it as an example which is intrinsically appealing. Storytelling is a cognitive thing. And it is very powerful and simple for some, yet very difficult and elusive for most people. But the good part of it is, it need not be so. You can understand the cognitive science behind storytelling, become a master storyteller, and with some practice, create and move the universe. I mean it, totally move it. Storytelling is all about influencing thought and behavior in a profound manner. Let me first introduce you to the greatest storyteller in history, Jesus of Nazareth. With his fables, he has created a followership of 2.38 billion people of the 7.87 walking on this planet. An amazing 31% of the people on this planet are moved by this person's fables. No less a storyteller was Valmiki, who with his Ramayana has created a followership of 1.61 billion people. That is 15.16% of the world population swear by what he has created. Why is it they had such an impact on the mind? How and what did they say that has taken our mind? They've taken total control of our mind. It is all in how the right and the left brain work together. The more you can get them synchronized as you are telling your story, the more impact you will have. So first, let us understand why the story has to be told in a certain way. Everything is not a story. A story is one that can synchronize the working of the right and the left brain. So let us first understand what is cognition and storytelling. It is necessary to understand the secret of how our mind works through the brain to create cognition or awareness. It is only by understanding the ways of cognition can you arrive at the answer to understanding how to tell a powerful and impactful story. The right brain, as you all know, is the seed of intuition, creativity, imagination, thoughtfulness, and is highly subjective. And the left brain is analytical, clinical, objective, and mathematical. Who says so? Why should you accept if I say it? It is said by Roger W. Sperry, who did work on the right and left brain. He studied the brain functioning in patients who had their corpus callosum, the structure which connects the right and left brain together, surgically severed to treat refractory epilepsy. When he did that, he did he observed a lot of changes in his patients. And he started working on it. My dear friends, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for this in 1981. So I'm not talking about any Tom, Dick, or Harry. He is the ultimate in neuroscience. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for this study on the right and left brain in 1981. He found that, generally speaking, the left brain tends to control many aspects of language and logic, while the right side handles spatial information and visual comprehension. Spatial information and visual comprehension. In other words, the right brain is where the story is going to be received and accepted through visual and spatial comprehension. And the left brain is where it is going to be created. In other words, you have to understand the right brain to understand the science of cognition. And you have to understand the left brain to understand the secret of storytelling, how to tell a story. For that, you have to understand the left brain, but you have to understand how the right brain works. Only then you will be able to tell it in such a way that it is aligned with the science of cognition. In other words, the left brain is creating and delivering the story. The right brain is receiving, understanding, and appreciating a story. Now we have divided the brain into two halves, the right and the left. This was way back in the 60s and 70s, but somewhere along the line, in 1990s, functional magnetic resonance imaging came in. Research was conducted on the brain, and they found that the brain is not exactly divided into right and left. It consists of layers. There are 7 layers to the brain, and these 7 layers correspond with increasing intensity to the storytelling, which is at the core. There are 7 secrets or layers which, when peeled one by one, will take you to the core of storytelling, making you an absolute master. As you peel layer after layer, it keeps getting more and more interesting, more and more impactful. At the end of the 11th layer, you will be an absolute master to sell, convince, influence, or master the art of storytelling and transform anyone and everyone with your personal, professional, or business story. Let's see what the first layer is. Are you seeing the picture? See it carefully. See it as carefully as you can, because you are going to tell me how this corresponds to the first layer. What does it mean? Do you want to take a screenshot of it? Because again, you're going into the breakout room to give job to your occipital, temporal, and parietal lobes to go and look for meaning for what you're seeing here. This is the first layer. You need to cross this gate to go to the second layer. If you do not peel it efficiently, the story will get messed up. Take a screenshot and tell me, what does it mean? I'm again dividing the room, again dividing the group into 5 rooms. Go back, friends, and tell me, help me understand what the first layer is. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The rooms have been opened. You got 30 minutes. Can you all move to your rooms, please? Akash, Mukesh, Mr. Jigish, Kanaka Pratap ma'am, Pooja, Shilpa. Pooja, can you please move to the room? Mr. Jigish, Akash, Rehan. Pooja, can you move to the room? Welcome back.
Yes, sir. We are back, sir.
Yeah, I can see. I'm not very happy with me. That also I can see.
No, sir. No, not like that.
It's not that 30 minutes is over, sir.
Sir, this is a new dimension to the story that we are not happy with you.
You know, that is one more added dimension.
Added dimension.
The grass is green on the other side of the mountain, sir.
Okay. Don't make me climb it.
We are going to climb it.
Bala sir, in sync with this, he's actually
Nagi sir is telling something.
Bala
Yes,
sir
Nagi sir.
Bala sir is showcasing all the layers behind it.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I was thinking of counting it. I think Nagi sir has bet me to it. Bala, your screen has got multiple layers. Have you observed it?
No, sir.
Just turn around and see.
No, so many colors.
Okay, now let's start with room number 1.
So room number 1, just a minute.
We are room number 1, ma'am.
Yes. Is this about story? No, I'm so sorry, not this document. Oh. Just a minute, sir. I don't know. So kindly give us 2 minutes. I think I lost the document somewhere.
Okay, no issue.
We'll get back.
Then we will start with room number 2.
Sir, we have it. We have it. I'm so sorry.
Okay, room number 1.
Yes, sir, we have it. So this is room number 1's storytelling dimension. Like there are 3 individuals there. We understand that each individual has their own inner journey into comprehending storytelling. What may be mine may not be yours, but both do understand the storytelling art. Then the opening of the story, it should be so effective that it should motivate the listener. Now coming to both the opening and the ending, there should be a relevance, otherwise the essence is lost, especially while the story is being told. Now we could see ambition and motivation, 2 emotional quotients expressed there. That ambition is a reminder of that individual to think what lies in store for me if I have to listen to the story. That becomes an emotional expression. And this expression is a variable because each individual is defined by their culture and their kind, the background which they come from. And this also acts as motivation, despite the different culture and different kind and different practices. And getting into the art of storytelling is probably because of our 6 senses, which we are totally ruled by. Now, when we are storytelling, there's a vivid picture that is created in the mind of the listener as well as the one who's visualizing. And I think this accentuates the imaginative dimension of storytelling. And there is an abstractness in this entire storytelling. And this abstractness opens up vistas for various elements. Now, once the elements are opened, the journey starts. And the visual, auditory, kinesthetic are personified in the picture in the form of those 3 people present there. And this personification is happening through the external platform, that is the outer layer. And it paves way for the inner, the intrinsic understanding. And this illustrative picture, which is highly abstract, it is inviting enough for varied expressions from each individual. And finally, room 1 concludes that storytelling delving is a golden pathway, which is definitely going to fetch you something as a great takeaway. Thank you. This is from room 1, sir.
Nothing more to say. We are already storytellers now. Superb, madam.
So it's a team effort, sir. Completely inputs from each and everyone.
That means each and every one of the members of the team, whatever their age may be, have got tremendous potential as grandparents. God bless you all, because your grandchildren are really going to enjoy your presence. Beautiful story you have created. Fantastic, fantastic. Superb input. Now, by the way, who all were there in the team?
Sir, Bala, Narendra, Rajendra, Pooja, and who else? Chidambaram sir, Suresh Ramaratnam sir, myself. Anyone did I miss out?
No, ma'am. You covered everyone.
Unfair, very unfair. Zoom, I have to again complain to Zoom. Or is it possible that all of you are so great that whenever I listen to a team, I find it is the best? Okay, let's go to room number 2.
But I think I think that the bare bone essence, if you ask me in a single layer, no, then we thought that great opening is required, because the first gate is that of the emotion, that what is there in it me, and that VAK is our friend actually to surpass that gate.
Great. Very beautifully summed up. Room number 2.
Yes, we are here.
Yeah.
So now we have been now looking at a lot of elements which are there in this entire picturization. Number 1, we observed that almost all the elements of nature are present there. That's something interestingly which we observed. Thank you so much for giving me the help with the visualization. Okay, so the complete, all the natural elements are pretty much there. Number 1. Number 2, in terms of the 3 people who are, walking into something, our team was looking at them from 2 different dimensions. One of our team members mentioned that it could be a conscious, subconscious, and unconscious state of mind. That's a possibility. The second possibility is that maybe we have in these 3 people a hero, ally, and a villain. Like, on the right hand side, you can see he's slightly darker. On the left hand side, the softer person. So could be an ally for the hero and a villain, traveling together in the story. A story calls for all this, right? All these elements are going to be important. And then we also were looking at this entire structure, the round structure, which is relating to the, the mind and the brain of a human being. So that's something which we were looking at. So the storyteller is taking the pathway towards that, where, as the story unveils, possibly you have a seed which is planted and it blossoms into a story. Okay, that is something which we are seeing here. And some more thing what we saw in this is like, the kind of, as you walk in, just pass through that sunflower, we see either it could be a water splash, but we didn't see that there was an impact. Maybe, could there be a splash even without an impact? That's a question that we started asking. Or could it be a part of the waterfall that is coming in, where it's that relatively, it can be compared to the flow of thoughts which is coming into the mind of the receiver, possibly even the teller, because as the story unveils, the storyteller could also become dynamic. His thoughts could be, flowing in a specific dimension and direction, where it could take a dynamism, and the story also could possibly unveil to a totally different dimension. Of course, we also saw there are 2 birds, 2 pigeons there on the left and right. which could either represent the motivation and ambition. Okay, see, why is that motivation and ambition are being highlighted here? These two words especially is something which we were dwelling upon. So what we observed is possibly there has to be a motivation towards the ambition of the listener. So unless there is going to be a specific objective, which is towards the ambition, towards the goal of that listener, he is not going to be motivated. So that's one possibility that we were looking at here. And one more thing is, possibly these two pigeons also could represent both the positive and negative sides, because if we closely see that there is a darker patch on the left image and the right image, there is no darker patch in that. Maybe they are representing both positive and negative. Positive mindset, negative mindset, or positive dimension of the story and the negative dimension of the story. And we were also looking at this, when the story is being unveiled, there has to be a context for the story. And the context has to be in such a way that it helps to remove the clutter. See, we were seeing that, there are a lot of things where if you go slightly deeper inside, we see that there is possibly a deeper sea and possibly a snow-capped mountain, which means the story possibly can have, a lot of depth and a lot of heights as well. Okay, so it's a broader canvas. Again, what happens is when we start the journey of storytelling, the path is broader. As we go closer, deeper into the story, the path narrows. Possibly, we start with a broader perspective, and then the story possibly takes us much more closer in terms of the focus of either the ambition or the motivation towards which the story is being exclaimed. So that's the analogy that we are looking at. And we are also seeing that the story is a gateway to opening up of the mind. This splash could be, kind of opening up. So maybe that's a gateway, which we just enter the gateway of the mind through the storytelling. That's something which we saw as a team. Okay. And the process actually, the process of storytelling is something very interesting, where we notice that, it could bring either a new dimension to the entire perspective of the subject which is being discussed. And one more thing is, possibly it could also help us to concretize our idea. Already we have something, we see that is solidified, that is, kind of made strong. The belief could be either made stronger, or the pattern could be broken, or a new pattern could be introduced. So that's a possibility that we saw here. And then we also saw one more thing, as we step forward in the path of storytelling, we have been seeing a lot of stones which are marked, which could be, kind of milestones. Each brick could be a milestone possibly. So as you go towards your story, there is some milestone that you pass through with a clear set objective by the storyteller. So that's something which we noticed here. So that when the direction, one more thing is the direction of the storytelling here. We relate this path to storytelling, which is straight. There is no deviation. There is no change in the direction. The story is being presented in a straightforward and focused manner towards the perfect objective, which is probably going much deeper and much higher. So that's something which we noticed. And then we also noticed something very interesting, that, the person who is in the center is carrying a bag in the back. There's a backpack in him. Possibly he has got some content which is being taken possibly towards the mind. Like when we see that the circular structure is going to be represented by the mind. So possibly he is going to feed the mind with some content that he has got, packed for that specifically. Maybe he can decide to use it. He need not use it as and when the situation calls for. So that's something which we saw here. And we also saw that, like as we were mentioning, it is not only that, hero villain. We also saw that they could be, representing the protagonist, ally and villain, and seeds and pigeons. Yeah, I think I've covered almost all the points. And there is one more thing that we are seeing here. The entire structure is totally abstract, which means the storyteller can have his own dimension and the receiver can have his own dimension. Both could be abstract, and that also, unveils the imagination of the both the storyteller and the receiver. Okay, so that is something that we have been seeing here. And we also saw that there is an element of logical mind here, which starts questioning the storyteller. Like, come on, boss. I mean, is this something that which you believe? I mean, is it? I mean, it looks more like a story. Is it true? So the logical mind also has to be silenced when we are talking about the story, by possibly giving the right facts and figures which get allied with the story. So that is something which could really help us to, address the logical mind, because logical mind is something which needs to be fed also. That's something which we were seeing. And,
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I think it has been it is becoming a dissertation on that picture. Rather than the first layer, it is becoming the entire brain. You see, what does that layer mean? That picture is signifying something. Together, you see, the objective is not to dissect that picture element by element. You have done, the team has done an extremely comprehensive job of it. There is no doubt about it. A very, very comprehensive job, but what is the one single message that this picture is driving about the first layer of the mind, which has to be penetrated for the story to be created and told? What is that secret of the cognition that this picture represents? Can you just sum it up, Mr. Muralidharan, if you don't mind? In one single sentence, maybe, what it is, it signifies. You see, you have spoken at length on each and every element. No one could have done a more comprehensive job than what you and your team have done. No doubt about it. But what is that one message that it is delivering?
One single message is very clear. The storytelling has to be clear, with an objective, with a motivation, and it has to be focused. Simple. That's the single message. If you want, that's all I can give.
Yeah, excellent. That's precisely what I'm looking for. I'm looking for one single message which the layer represents. What does the layer represent?
I don't know if I'm representing. I don't know if I'm representing my team's idea, but what comes to my mind is what exactly I said.
Is anyone else who in the team would like to say in support of what Mr. Muralidharan has said, or would they like to add something when he says, it is the objective, it is the focus which that picture represents? Would anyone else want to add to it?
The picture adds the screen that has to be broken through to reach into the subconscious mind of the listener. The focus and the content has to be there, but there are impediments to that entry into that subconscious mind, and this picture represents that impediments which has to be broken through to get into that subconscious mind.
Excellent, excellent, beautiful. And really, you people have really done a fantastic job of analyzing and interpreting a very, very abstract, very famous abstract.
Can I come?
Yes, Anilji. Are you from this room?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, tell me.
So I recall the story you told earlier of a medical sales representing entering the doctor, how he attracts, because already his mind is here and there, how he can attract his mind toward him and focus toward him. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. You see, this is a very abstract painting. And this painting has a very solid message. Very, very solid and very accurate message, which represents the first layer. Thank you, room number 2. It was a great job done. It was an excellent job. Now let's move on to room number 3.
Yes, sir. I will be representing room number 3 again.
Yes.
Give me a minute. All right. So we have come up with these points. First is knowing the purpose and what is important for the audience, the ambition of the audience. Whatever is there already pre-existing in their thoughts can be flushed out, and we need to bring them on the same page. And we must take the audience along with us through emotional connect, creating the interest throughout so that they listen to the story. And the most important point that we discussed is about tapping into the unknown and knowing it and trying to figure out what's in it for them. So basically moving from the conscious to subconscious mind. So that's also, that's all from our end.
You see, these are all action statements. Will everyone mute, please? Again, I'm surprised that you all don't seem to be hearing the noise and only I'm hearing it. May I request everyone to keep an eye? Don't unmute and leave it just like that. You are disturbing everybody. Yes, Umama.
Yes, sir. So that was all from our end, sir.
Okay, now see, you have given actionable points. But what I'm asking is, what is this layer of the cognition? And how will you correspond your story to it?
All right.
What does the first layer of cognition represent? What is he telling? What is this picture telling you about the first layer of cognition? What do you need to type in Google to get this picture? Okay, let's move on to room number 3. Number 4. You see, once we understand that gateway to the cognition, the first layer, you peel it and prepare a story corresponding to that, you will be able to enter. So you need to understand what is the first layer of cognition. Yes, tell me. Yes, Nitika.
Okay. So our group, we spent a lot of time first understanding the picture and understanding what is this first layer that we're talking about. But we wanted to talk about this as a journey first. So this is an entry into the gateway of abundance. And what is this abundance? How do we ignite the mind of the audience? Hence, the name of the gate is stated very clearly as motivation and ambition. So something to attract them towards this gate. So this gamut looks like a key and a keyhole. So what it leads to is the abundance. It unlocks abundance and gets us entry into the subconscious. The desire is the motivation for learning here. So we are creating that desire by attracting these voyagers who are standing there. This is the door of, because the door of cognition will begin with the sense of a motive. Now, when a voyager is looking at that pathway and looking into that gate and seeing those beautiful colors, the flowers, the water body, the heights, the snow, everything, what it does is it creates curiosity. It attracts the attention of the audience, and attracting is happening by use of all these various colors and all these various dimensions that we can see. So there is some mystery there. Something is hidden behind this gate. And as a voyager and as an audience, I want to see it. And that is my first layer. My curiosity is there. I want to see it because of the mystery that is created. The audience uses the art of visualization to unfold what could possibly be inside that gate. Now, at this stage, a need is created to fulfill their intrinsic and extrinsic desire. And these are the desires of these voyagers who are standing there. So a compelling reason for the person to take that path is given. And this is the forte of the storyteller. The way he goes forward is how he's able to get him to that path, because after all, he selected that path. So he helps them choose the path that that the storyteller has laid for them entices them to the path, and hence it leads to demystifying, which happens in the mind of the voyager, which has been created by the storyteller. And when that demystifying happens is when you have taken the first step, which is actually started, the first layer, which has actually started because of the curiosity that you've created.
Excellent attempt at storytelling, Nitika, but you have still not answered the question. What does the first layer represent? Excellent storytelling, no doubt. You know, you unshare this to me. None of you have observed what has happened to you. All the 4 teams, something has happened.
Can I ask, can I tell one line, one
yes,
sentence?
Tell me.
I think I made a mistake. It is not emotion I was telling, it was ego layer basically.
Okay. Okay, Rajendra ji. One thing has happened to all of you. Let me complete team number 5 and then you will recognize that. Team number 5.
Okay, so here is what we did together as team number 5. So following ambition with motivation is like opening a lock. So the entire picture at the outset, it looks like a key. And so that is where we started. So motivation is the fuel and ambition is the destination. When they are now, where they are now and where they will go or need to go. And basically unlocking the mental block is the starting point, is the key. That analogy of keyhole needs to be opened from. Why? Because it actually allows you from moving from darkness to light. So knowledge actually, ignorance and knowledge, darkness to light. Then what is the key to motivate people to get them started from their starting point? That is the motivation. And why? Because to reach the destination, that is the ambition. Story is the key to motivate people to get started. Essence, output, or what is to be delivered is the key. But this needs to be aware of all the time. Choosing the central message, core message, is the starting point. Means being aware about it and then unfolding it consciously, slowly, deliberately. Needs to be visually appealing and attractive to the user, to the audience, basically, user needs. Showing the path to better, hopeful future. So that is the promise or the potential that the act of storytelling holds. Symmetry, harmony, where the people are taking path to. The people means the 3, group of 3. Path to moving to. So it's a balanced approach, not one-sided. Painting a beautiful picture, something better, hopeful to look forward to, and that is the motivating factor. Tangible path to reach the destination. The paved path, solid path, doable, attainable. So the practical aspect is very much there. Doable, achievable. So you easily keep motivated to get to the ambition. People and not the individual are moving. So it's a people story. Then trees, birds, flowers, harmony with nature, sun, power, moon signifies beauty, star-studded beauty. So many things. It makes the story interesting. Means from abstract to so the abstractness merges or gives itself to the pointedness, basically. That's where the story leads audience to. Then 3 people, Taylor listener story. 3 is a crowd, signifies the importance of people, means getting people aligned with what you want to do through the storytelling. Direction and purpose is laid out and the same for all. Doves signify the peace, no violence. So journey to look forward to and enjoyable because it has a peace and bliss in it. Halo, the white border. Enlightenment propels, motivates to the ambition, which is definitely to look forward to. Lots of positivity. Initially, it looks difficult, abstract, so to say, but when started, looks tangible, feasible, achievable. Path is yellow, paved with gold, symbolizes prosperity. Then that's that's the reason good enough to be on the path, to continue the journey. Top of the hill, there is a crown, destination achievement, and blue border, it's serenity.
Again, you see, we are entering into analysis of the picture where the requirement is to understand what is the layer.
Sir, may I say something?
We are confusing ourselves. And do you know why this is happening with each of you? You have let loose the child after maybe 40, 50 years. It has started asking questions, why this, why that, why this?
Sir, may I say them?
Yes, tell.
Sir, I think that ignite the desire in the mind of audience is the first layer.
Tell me what is that activity of cognition which is this represents. What was the objective in front of the mind when it first landed from water onto earth 360 million years ago?
What's next?
Why what next? Why? What is it? It makes it ask what next?
Survival.
What does survival mean? Envisioning the future. That mind is totally concentrated only on envisioning a future. It looks at the past to learn lessons. It looks at the present to extrapolate and look at the future. That is how the mind works.
Correct.
The first gateway, when you see, as you rightly said, Nitin sir, that it's a keyhole. You are looking into the future. And the future is uncertain. And what is forcing you to look at the future? It is your motivation to survive and your ambition to grow and take forward the species. Remember one thing. The principal job of the mind is to keep you alive and to procreate so that the species can go forward. There was nothing called a carrier. There was nothing called a Zoom platform. There was nothing called fame. There was nothing called prosperity. Nothing when life began. And this brain has come to us from then, from the beginning of time. The first layer, my dear friends, is envisioning the future. That is what the first layer is. Now let us look at it from two angles. One, what does the cognitive right brain, which is going to receive the story, how does it function? And the corresponding left brain, the cerebral cortex, which is the latest addition to the brain, how does it function? We all know that as children, we had a well-developed right brain of emotion, but a very poorly developed left brain of logic, mathematics, and reasoning. That is one of the reasons why even the Indian Penal Code does not recognize a child, what do you call it, a minor of any crime. We think in story, which allows us to envision the future. In the second that it takes you to read this sentence, do you know? Your senses have been bombarded by 11 million bits of information. And you possibly are aware of only 40 of them. And on a good day, you might be able to focus on 7, and on a bad day, only 5. Not only your brain, the brain of every organism has one main goal, that is survival. Your subconscious brain, which the neuroscientists call the adaptive brain, or a cognitive subconscious, is a very finely tuned instrument. It becomes instantly aware of what matters and what doesn't, or what shouldn't. And it makes sense of all the information entering into it by a process that is very akin to storytelling. So, from the very first sentence, the audience should want to know what is going to happen next. If this is not there, your story will fall on its face. Totally, it will fall on its face. The reason why many people are unable to tell a good story is they begin without a what next in their mind. The story does not contain a what next. This gentleman is Antonio Damasio. He was the one, who did the surgery, which led this neuroscientist, this surgeon is who, created the entire story. He was there with Sperry when the surgery happened, and he is the one, the neuroscientist, who summed it up beautifully. The problem of how to make all the wisdom understandable and transmissible, persuasive, and enforceable in a word, of how to make it stick, is all found in the solution called stories. It's how we make strategic decisions. Our brain casts the protagonist and then edits our experience with precision, creating logical interrelations, mapping connections between memories, ideas, and events for only one reason: future reference. We have all experienced this, my dear friend. Let's face it, we are all busy. Plus, most of us are plagued by the little voice in the back of our mind, which constantly is reminding us that we should be doing something more important than, discussing stupid storytelling. Which means that in order to distract us from the relentless demands of the surrounding, the story that is told to you should grab you by the throat. And that is possible only if it has a tremendous amount of what next in it. So for a story to grab you, not only must something be happening, but also there must be a consequence that you should anticipate. As neuroscience reveals, what draws us into a story and keeps us there is the firing of our dopamine neurons, signaling that intriguing information is on its way. Only when the dopamine neurons fire, that intriguing information is on its way, will you be grabbed by the story. Remember one thing, the story is not about your elocution. The story is not about your capacity to articulate. The story is not about your strength. The story is not about your language capacity. The story is about, can you grab the attention of the audience and get his dopamine neurons firing? That can happen only if with the first sentence you grab his attention. Come on, friends. Once upon a time, we have all heard this sentence innumerable number of times. Does it not signal that something is going to come? I'm going to send you into a breakout room where you are going to write a story of 10 to 15 sentences as a group. Just 10 to 15 sentences. Which from the first sentence to grab the mind of the people, and it should have a what next at every stage. 5 teams, let's see what happens. Remember, 10 to 15 sentences only, and I don't want any discussions on it. You just come, tell that story of 15 sentences. That should not take you more than 1 or 1.5 minutes. It should be crisp. It should grab the audience by their throat and make them, keep them pinned to the seat so that what next will be there. I have opened the rooms. Please go to the rooms and write the story collectively, 10 to 15 sentences, half an hour you have got. Please proceed, all of you. Jagdish ji, Suma, Suresh, Akash.
Please give me the link. Breakout.
I already sent it to you. It has come. I've opened the room. Everyone has left. You can see people are leaving. You also joined.
Actually, my net was disconnected. Now I reconnected now.
Okay, you have got the link?
Sir, I've logged in from 2 more devices, sir. I was already in one room.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Jagdish, you can proceed now. Now I've given you again. Welcome back, friends. Eventful evening. So which team do we begin with?
Anyone?
Our team, sir.
Room number 5.
Yeah,
So-
room number 5. Okay, so what I will do is I will share my screen.
Only the story.
Yeah, I will
I
share
don't
the
want
screen.
any explanation. Your story should be the explanation. You know, you remember what I have told? When you tell a story, you should never explain.
No, I will share the screen
Yeah.
and let. Okay. I will
Yeah,
share the
just
screen
read
first.
the story.
Okay. So who wants to read the story?
I'll read it out.
Please.
We might, last part of it, we were short of time, so just a little line that we'll add there.
Okay.
Let's hide it here. Are you sure nobody will come to know of it? I am sure. Let's wait for tomorrow morning. Sitting in the desolate waiting room at the railway station for the last train to arrive, already past midnight, when I overheard the conversation from the washroom. I froze. My teeth were chattering. Legs were trembling. My mind was racing. What will happen now? Who are they? What are they hiding? What are they referring to? Suddenly the door opened. 2 men dragging the gunny sack entered from the washroom. I could see them, startled, looking at me. They looked through me and slowly they dragged the gunny sack towards the platform. Next, I heard the whistle of the train. Red colored trail marks followed the gunny sack and the train left. That's our story.
Good. This is a wonderful beginning for a story. What did we see with the clenched fist? The story should heighten the tension, then release it, should engage the audience, and then it should intrinsically appeal to the audience, right? Wonderful beginning to a story. No wonder, no doubt about it. Who was the person who read it?
I read it, sir.
Who?
Lakshmi,
I means who?
Lakshmi.
Okay. Okay, excellent. You see, it has been very well crafted to grab the attention. You have grabbed the attention, no doubt about it. You have come to the what next. Now, who is the protagonist here? You have got the people who are dragging. You have got yourself. Now, who is the protagonist?
Actually, we wanted to take a little more, put a little more flesh into the story and keeping the protagonist as the narrator. But somehow we were running short of time and ideas and we kind of
Okay,
just
but it's a very
compiled
good
it.
beginning. Very, very good beginning. Fantastic. I'm sure if you had more time, you would have done a killer job of it. No doubt about it. With the 30 minutes, I don't think anyone could have done better than this. Thank you. Wonderful input. Yes, let's move on to room number 4.
So Maheji, we are in which room?
Room number 4.
Okay, I am coming with a story. There was a boy and his mother was very sick. There was no money in the house to feed her and buy some medicines for her. He went from place to place in search of some help and ultimately went to a store and stole a piece of bread and some cheese. He was caught by the guard and handed over to the police. They took him to the court and he was asked by the judge his fault. The boy admitted that he has stolen a piece of bread and cheese from the store to save her mother lying on the bed. The judge asked, "Did you not go to anybody for help?" The boy replied, "Sir, I went to 50 places, my known and unknown, and nobody helped me. Ultimately, I took this step to save my mother's life." The judge pronounced the judgment that everyone in the court should be fined and pay $10, including himself, to the boy so that he can feed his mother. The moral of the story is the society which cannot protect even the poorest of the poor has no right, which cannot fulfill the basic need. So the society has to be punished. Thank you.
It is a good story. It's definitely a good story, Anilji. Give him a big hand. Very well written. There is an element of what next in it, and it does close very well with a moral. Something has definitely been achieved. Definitely, this will appeal. Yes, let's go on to room number 3. Are you understanding, Anilji, what I'm telling? Are the people understanding?
Thank you.
Huh?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
let's
sir.
go
Yes,
to-
sir.
So you see, the first one is you envision the future. From the beginning itself, you have a feeling of, okay, what is going to happen? How is it all going to turn out? You have a vague feeling that everything will turn out fine, but you still, you want to know how it is going to turn out. Yes. Next.
Yeah, we are from room number 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sir,
Rams.
Anil sir, you please stop sharing, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sir. Please proceed, sir.
Yep. Ram returns back home after a very eventful day in his office. He finds, surprisingly, that the door is closed. Usually it's supposed to be open when he's there. After all, his wife is a housewife. And then he rings the bell. There was no answer. Just wonders, like once, twice, thrice, there is no answer. So he just takes the extra key that he has got in his pocket and he just opens and gets in. I mean, sometimes it happens, like, they may not be available. Maybe they have gone for a shopping. Maybe they have gone somewhere close by. Fine. But when he comes in, he finds almost all the doors and windows are closed. But in the teapot, he finds that there is a gift pack, which is there. The time his wife just calls and says, "Are you back from the office?" "Yeah, I'm back from the office." And he says, just casually ask her, "I mean, I just noticed that there is a pack. What is that all about?" She said, "What? A pack? There was nothing when we left for shopping." I mean, everybody is concerned. How could suddenly magically a mystery pack can come inside the house when all the doors and windows are closed? How could that happen? I mean, who could be behind that? And what could be there inside? Is it something good, bad, something very interesting, or something which is, we have to be clear our minds about? And then, she rushes back and all the entire family members are so concerned. They just gather around and keep discussing. But they suddenly realize something. There was one person missing in the family, the son. He just walks in and they ask him, "Hey, come on, boy, what is that? I mean, are you aware? What is that? So much of concern, so much of gathering, and you have been talking so much about it." No, we just found that there is a mysterious gift pack which is available here. We said, "Hey, come on, that's something which I ordered." "But how could that come inside?" No, I just came only to receive because I got a phone call because I came to know that you are all not there. So I just came and picked it up and left and went back to the office. Then there is a sigh of relief from everybody. What happens is sometimes in life, are we taking the entire situation, the complete situation into consideration before jumping into a conclusion? The husband was speaking to the wife and considered that the entire family was there. The son missing was missed out. So sometimes we jump to conclusions without getting into a complete understanding. That's about it. Thank you.
Very good. Very well done. Beautiful.
We have to thank you.
3.
We have to thank you for that because you came and helped us in closing. I mean, closing was not thought about by us.
No. Nothing, no help or anything. You people have done it yourself. Room number 2.
Okay, I will share the screen. Anybody from room number 2 want to present?
Let it be by you, Nitika ji.
Nitika ji.
Right. Sapnil couldn't have asked for more. All the while, he was looking at the shambles in which he was dwelling, in a remote jhuggi in Dharavi, with his aging parents and not even a single square meal a day. and was relentlessly fighting to meet ends, not knowing what tomorrow could be like. One day, as he was crossing the road mindlessly, screech came the sound, and he closed his eyes and prayed to God, thinking it was his last day in the world. The thought of his parents being left alone hounded him. A few minutes ticked by. He could sense his heart pounding, and slowly he opened his eyes. And to his dismay, he saw a metallic blue BMW stopping a feet away. The right door opened, and he noticed a suit-clad gentleman stepping out. And Sachin found him walking briskly towards him with a bottle of water. Having few sips of water, the gentleman introduced himself as Sham from Dublin. He dropped the boy to his house in Dharavi. He asked the boy if he would like to be employed at 20,000 per month. Sachin took the offer and knew he will now be able to take care of his family and his dreams. He worked hard and slowly and gradually set up a business and hired all his friends at the slum. After a few years, happily, he looked at the wealth and opportunities he had created with Sham's help and said, Thanks God for sending my angel Sham, sir. I could have not asked for anything more.
Beautiful. Give them a big hand. So the journey has begun, friends. You are all well on the way to becoming a good storyteller. And we are still peeling just the first layer of storytelling. Don't forget, there are 10 more layers. God knows what you people will do when you complete the 11th layer and reach the core. Yes, let's come to room number 2.
Room number 1, so we were 2.
Okay, room number 1. So maybe, I feel like listening to the story again.
So room number 1, I'm representing.
Wow.
May I share the screen?
This is going to be gorgeous.
It's just a teamwork and the base script given by Atul sir. So we have a title, The Garb to Grab a Story. Oh, I dreamt something huge, Your Majesty, said the fisherman to the astrologer who lived in the next lane. The reply motivated. You are going in for a big catch. Use this opportunity, advised the scholarly man. Let me reach the sea as early as I can, said the fisherman to himself before he slept. He wanted to surprise his family about the big gift only the next day. The night sleep eluded him. Tossing, he remained. Next morning at dawn, he was at the shore, ready with his bait. He continued seated, waiting for the sunrise. His idle hands felt a bag of pebbles. He groped inside the bag, picked them and started throwing the pebbles one by one into the deeper waters. By now, the sun rose, but he had not caught anything because of his attempt. All pebbles were thrown far away. Let me throw the last pebble, he said to himself. But he observed the pebble before throwing it. To his surprise, it was a precious one. The opportunity would have been lost if this fisherman was negligent. So friends, do observe before you act. Thank you. This is from room 1.
Great, 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 great. So you see, beautiful. Just imagine the moment you realize that the first layer is envisioning, and the key to envisioning is the question that the mind asks, what next? It opens up. Now let us open it up a bit more so that whatever story you have written, you can make it even more rich, the same story. Let's see what next contains. Now I'm going to tell you 2 stories. One, how it should not be, and the other, we will keep it as a suspense. Did I tell you about Rakesh? He was supposed to come over last night. But it was raining, and like an idiot, I forgot to shut my window, and my new bed got soaked. My parents had paid a fortune for it. I'm worried that now I will have to come up with a logical excuse for leaving the window open. My mother is going to be very, very angry, and I can't blame her. She's so perfect in all that she does. I hope I have her genes. I would love to be efficient like her. Why did he not come? Should I go and find out? But before that, I need to do something about the wet bed before my mother finds out. On hearing this story, I am sure you must be totally bored because there is no what next here. What is more, you do not know in which direction the story is moving and why. People oftentimes in their delivery of everything, story or otherwise, keep digressing. Imagine this narrator has introduced three characters. The person who is narrating, Rakesh, who was supposed to come, and his mother. And he has painted a mild characterization of the characters and the situation, but still the audience do not know or are clear what to expect. Who is the protagonist? Who is the main character? And what is he driving at? They don't know. This is not a story. This will never grip the attention of the audience. Now listen to this. The pains were coming 5 minutes apart now. Every time one came, she jolted herself against the side of the car, trying to think of something other than the pain. Everything outside was whizzing past her. From the car window, because Moti was speeding, something which she had never seen him do before. Neela gripped the armrest, her knuckles white. She pressed against the back of the seat and dug her feet into the floor. As if any moment she would fly off into the air. Stop, she wanted to say. Stop, slow down. But she couldn't form the words. Couldn't make her mouth work properly. Couldn't do anything except wait in terror for the next thing. Moti was hunched over the wheel, peeping his horn through the traffic, which wasn't much anyway. His face was reflected in the rear view mirror, but he didn't look at her. Instead, he couldn't seem to keep himself from thinking, did I wait too late before starting for the hospital? Will I make it to the hospital in time to deliver the child safely? The hospital was still a few kilometers away. He kicked himself for the 100th time for not listening to the doctor and admitting Neela the earlier evening. Suddenly, there was a loud scream. He jerked around in time to see Neela collapse on the bed with her mouth, in the back seat with her mouth wide open and the scream frozen, eyes open. Dripping with sarcasm, I could hear my mother say, Moti, at least some good has come of your procrastination. You can claim to be an experienced midwife. My father held me up, looked into my eyes amid the cheering crowd of the Dalhousie Square in Calcutta that late night of 4th August, 1957. Now you will believe me when I say that I was really a collaborative effort of a very furious mother and a repentant father from conception to delivery. My life from the very first moment was exciting, eventful, and full of surprises. And so it has continued till today as I turned 65. This is the opening chapter of my biography. What is the story about? Whose story is it? What's happening here? What is at stake? Whose story is it? It is my story. What's happening here? I have been delivered in a car by my father who delayed taking my mother to the hospital in time. What is at stake? The story of my life that is exciting, eventful, and full of surprises. being brought up by a furious mother and a procrastinating father. Now the audience is hooked. They want to know how my parents have influenced me to an eventful life and how the events relate to these traits of a furious person and a procrastinating person, and how I became successful, and from the learnings of these. The neuropsychiatrist Richard Restach writes, within the brain, things are always evaluating something within a specific context. It is context that bestows meaning, and it is meaning that your brain is trying to make out. After all, stories are simulations that our brains plumb for useful information. In case we ever find ourselves in a similar situation, we sort of need to know what we need to do. By giving us a glimpse of the big picture, George provides a yardstick that allows us to decode the meaning of everything that befalls us. In short, stories are the language of experience. A story is not just something that happens. A story is about how what happens affects someone who is trying to achieve what turns out to be a difficult goal, and how he or she changes as a result. The protagonist has to change in the journey. What happens is the plot. Protagonist is someone to whom it happens. The goal is what is known as the story question, and how he or she changes is what the story itself actually is about. If you have to create a checklist for your first layer, if you want to create a first layer peeler, which is perfect in every sense, you don't need to ask these 6 questions of that story. That story should answer these 6 questions. Number 1, whose story is it? Is the audience going to be clear that this is the protagonist? The story is about him or her. Number 2, is something happening? Are you just beating around the bush? Or is there something very specific happening? Because something happening is what the mind tries to look for. Because that is what it can relate to as envisioning the future through. Number 3, is there a conflict? Because if there is no conflict, there is nothing to grab your attention. There has to be a conflict in some way or the other. Number 4, what is at stake? Is something at stake? Because the opening or the first layer does not address what is at stake, you cannot develop the story. Because in achieving a resolution to that stake is where the plot resides. And that is where the protagonist is going to act and create a change in himself. All is not as it seems. If everything is as it seems, then there is no interest for the mind. It will just let go. So there should be a hint of mystery to it, because the future is always mysterious, is unpredictable, it is uncertain. People are discussing the pandemic only because it has created an uncertain future, a changing present. And finally, what is the big picture? What is it your story is attempting to tell? My dear friends, these are the points which the first layer, envisioning the future, answer. Whose story is it? What's happening? Is there a conflict? What is at stake? All is not as it seems. And what is the big picture? If you see the second story which I told about Neela in the car, you will find all these points are answered within that 10 to 12 sentences. Go back to the drawing table, take your story, Work through it without increasing the number of words which you have used to write that story. Rewrite the story to incorporate these points, and you would have peeled the first layer. There are 10 more layers to go. We have just completed one layer. That is, we have understood one secret of the storytelling. There are 10 more secrets to go before we hit the core of the storytelling. I am sure the question uppermost in your mind is, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. Scare away your doubts. There is no need to allow them to say that. Scare them away. You can and you will become an excellent storyteller. Join my master workshop, The Science Behind Storytelling. It is a 5-day workshop with one extra day kept hidden in the sleeves of my shirt, so that if required, it can go into the 6th day also. The workshop will be conducted from 7 to 10 on Saturdays and from 10 to 1 on Sundays. From 5th February, that is 5th, 12th and 19th of February are Saturdays, and 13th and 19th is Sunday. I mean 6th and 13th is Sunday, and 20th is kept as a reserve day in case it is required. It will go forward there. The fee is 7,500. You can register today with just 500 rupees. Pay the balance 7,000 by 2nd of February. You must be wondering why I called only the Diploma Master Trainer and personal branding people, because for them alone, a 20% discount is being given to Diploma Master Trainer and personal branding from average to iconic. It's just 6,000 only. And the course is for Diploma Master Trainer. This pricing is only for Diploma Master Trainer and personal branding from average to iconic. Click on the link to register today. Program fees. Program dates are Saturday 5th, 12th and 19th, February 7th to 10th, and Sunday 6th and 13th, 10 to 1 p.m. Friends, life is a story. What does yours say? I'm going to put the link on the chat window. You can use it to either pay it now, or you can, I will post it in the group. You can pay it at that time. I leave it to you. The number of people for this course is going to be very limited. And I want that first the Diploma Master Trainer and personal branding group people should finalize whether they are interested in joining this course. Depending upon how many of you will join, the balance I will take from outside. Otherwise, I will close with just Diploma Master Trainer and personal branding. I have posted the link. You can register.
Share the timings again, please? I think I missed that slide.
Saturday 7 to 10. Saturday 7 to 10. Saturday dates are, if I'm not mistaken, Saturday dates are 5th, 12th and 19th of February, 7 to 10 p.m. Sunday, 6th and 13th February. 20th February, I have kept up my sleeve in the event of we needing to extend it by 1 day. I will extend it by that day.
So
this is an intensive workshop, hands-on practicing of how to write a story. We will take a story and keep developing. Yes. Any questions?
So as usual, are the recordings also available? Are the recordings available?
Yes, yes, yes. Recordings will be available. I will be available. That's a standard operating procedure.
Okay.
Recordings will definitely be available, and I will be available to anyone, anytime.
Sir, I have registered.
Thank you, Suma. Thank you. I will also be putting it in the chat window of Diploma Master Trainer. And what do you call it, from average to iconic group. The participants group, I will also be posting it there. You can register. I would request you people to yes.
Rehan.
Rehan, yes, Rehan.
I have
Come on,
done registration.
You have registered. Okay, thank you. Very nice of you, Rehan.
Yeah, sir, you mentioned the bank account number so that we may deposit.
भेज देंगे माथुर साहब आपको बैंक अकाउंट नंबर, नहीं तो गूगल पे भी तो नंबर दिया हुआ है ना, गूगल पे कर दीजिए ना, 500 बुक कर दीजिए, बाद में बैंक अकाउंट नंबर दे दूंगा, कर दीजिएगा. Because you see, I need to know how many I have to take from outside. I don't want to take beyond 50 people in this group batch.
Sir, I would in one amount side 6,000 deposit करा दें कल मंडे को, आप तो अकाउंट नंबर दे देना. ठीक है, दे दूंगा. Don't worry. I'll send it.
I not have Google and this, I don't know.
भेज दूंगा boss. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
अकाउंट नंबर भेज दूंगा.
Arunji, I'll put it in the PayPal as well, so I'll join as well.
You have put it in PayPal?
Yeah, I'll do it as usual.
No, don't put it in PayPal because that will go to TTBC.
Oh, okay. Then later I'll get it from you. I'm registered as well, so I'll do it later.
Yeah, you can do it to me later. No issue.
Okay.
Any questions? Any clarifications?
So the storytelling, you mentioned the last step as the big picture. Is it the moral of the story that makes the big picture?
What is the story about? You see, in the case of that story which I was telling about my being born, what is the big picture? The picture is my autobiography of what I experienced through my life, how my life was impacted by a furious mother and a procrastinating father. So what is the message? That my mother was a very aggressive person and my father was a submissive, procrastinating person. Now, how does this mix together? Okay, so you see, what is the big picture? It should create a picture in your mind as to what it is all about. And that is when you start going towards it. You start, wanting to understand what the story is. You see, throughout there is a what next. And even when the chapter is ended, there is a what next. This what next, with a clarity on whose story it is, what is it about, all these things, the 6 questions as asked are what makes it that much more interesting. This is where the crux of the checklist contains. Each of the layer after we peel, I will give you a checklist. You go through that checklist, whether that layer has this part of the story, the layer has answered all these questions. Each will have a checklist. And once the checklist has been completed, you will know whether the story has been completed. When each of the layers, 6 checklists or 5 checklists or 4 checklists will be completed, at the end stage, when you reach the core, you will have a story which is trim, impactful, solid message. It will grip the audience by the throat and make them sit in one place. A story need not necessarily be just there was a king, there was a queen. That need not necessarily be a story. Even a presentation is a story. A presentation in your office is a story. Talking to your customer is a story. Everything is a story. How do you tell it? Do we have something very purposeful to tell, or are we just talking? This is the first of the 3 modules, the science behind storytelling. Once you know the science behind storytelling, the entire mind of the audience becomes clear to you. Any other questions?
I wish to a little more.
Nagi sir has registered. Thank you. Rehan has registered. Suma has registered. I have quite a number of registrations have come. Again, another one has popped up now.
Treat me as a registered, sir. Tomorrow I will deposit.
I think Mr. Barve has registered. Mandar Barveji has registered. SN Mathur has registered.
I'll do it, sir. Give me a little time.
No issue. No issue. No issues. See, this is a very, very, very important, what do you call it? Weapon in your armamentarium. Knowing how to tell a story, understanding what a story does. As transformers, it is going to be extremely important how we do it. Anyway, I will be putting the links in the group. You can just let me know if you are going to register at a later date and not immediately due to any compulsion. Let me know, so that I don't want the number of people to cross 50, because I want to give some personal attention to everyone. So if it becomes very big, it will become a problem. So that is the reason why I gave this separately for, personal branding and DMT group. Once I know how many people from here are going to join, and the balance amount I will source from outside. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed the storytelling session.
As always, sir, we enjoyed a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Good night.